¿cómo está tu carnal? Pero ahí estamos a la orden, ya sabes.
The Mexican city of Celaya is becoming the criminal embassy of the Mara Salvatrucha AKA MS-13 gang members. This is the result of the mareros' flight from El Salvador due to the persecution by Nayib Bukele's government. The gangs are fleeing, and the pandilleros have chosen to leave the country to avoid capture. Therefore, Mexico and neighboring countries to El Salvador have been targets of the gangs to escape from Nayib Bukele's government. They're directly targeting the gangs with the full force of the state and all the legal tools they can use. Bukele doesn't forgive, and neither does the United States. The pursuit of these gangs has reached the attention of the FBI in the United States, who classified them as terrorists. These are the so-called Ramblas Nacional, the highest hierarchy within the Mara Salvatrucha, which is now based in Mexico. They maintain important alliances with Mexican cartels. They're no longer just a passing gang. They've now established their presence in territories like Chiapas, Tabasco, Guanajuato, San Luis Potosí, Tamaulipas, and even Mexico City, with Celaya as the criminal headquarters. This allows them to have strategic operating centers throughout the country. They've not only established themselves in border states, but have also extended their presence to Mexico City. The so-called MS-13 Maras call this strategy Programa Mexico, which adds to other regional agreements. There are two programs, Discos and Los Angeles. The creation of these factions seems to be an attempt by the Mara to maintain and expand their control in various regions. This is where the nicknames like Mary Kane from Hollywood, India from Hollywood, and Cabro from Park View come from. They are a way for them to identify themselves. In a similar phenomenon to the Crazy Hollywood nickname, which refers to the operation areas where they established themselves, it's worth mentioning that these programs are the lower hierarchy within the MS-13, like dispersed factions that organize under the word of a leader. They're much smaller and more concentrated structures that ultimately respond to the region and the higher ranks in El Salvador. The FBI has a long criminal history with the so-called Ramblas, designated as terrorists by the United States. Despite being Salvadoran, they share a legacy with American gangs, and their most prominent aliases are Crazy Hollywood. The influence of the Maras dates back to the late 1980s, when they settled in Los Angeles due to Salvadoran migration to the United States. The Rambla Nacional members have been captured, including Marlon Antonio Melar Portillo, alias Rojo, Vladimir Antonio Aravelo Chavez, alias Vampiro, and Walter Giovanni Hernandez Rivera, alias Baxter, all on Mexican territory. However, the Crazy Hollywood members remain at large. The alliances between Mexican cartels and gangs are not new, though. El Chapo was the first to hire the Mara Salvatrucha and move Salvadoran gang members to Mexican territory. This was apparently an approach where they requested support from the leaders of the Mara in Los Angeles to recruit individuals to confront the Los Zetas cartel. A former gang member from the MS-13 says, "We are practically the armed branch of the Sinaloa Cartel in Los Angeles." These alliances date back to the 1990s, when these groups were on the other side of the United States border. They were responsible for drug distribution across the country, including methamphetamine and the coveted fentanyl. So they were put on the payroll by the Mexican cartels. With Nayib Bukele's new exceptional regime, the Maras had no choice but to ask their criminal comrades to allow them to establish themselves in Mexico to continue their criminal ambitions. A direct witness spoke with Ricardo Sosa, a researcher on organized crime in El Salvador. The pandilleros chose to leave the country believing that they can expand their criminal activities and develop various programs in Mexican territory. Xiomar Castro, the president of Honduras, has also declared a government of exception in terms of security, leading to significant captures of pandilleros on Honduran soil. The criminality and drug trade in Central America show no mercy. The Crazy Hollywood members of the Mara Salvatrucha remain free, and only one of them, known as El Indio from Hollywood, has been captured. The situation surrounding the Maras continues to be a complex and evolving issue. The influence and activities of the Mara Salvatrucha have spread across borders and established connections with various criminal entities, including Mexican cartels. The violence, extortion, and other criminal activities associated with these groups have had a significant significant impact on the safety and stability of the regions they operate in. Efforts to counteract the influence of the Maras and dismantle their criminal networks have proven to be challenging. Governments in the affected countries, such as El Salvador, Honduras, and Mexico, have been working to address the issue through law enforcement operations, intelligence gathering, and community engagement. However, the deeply rooted nature of these gangs and their connections with powerful criminal organizations makes the task of eradicating them a complex endeavor. The involvement of the United States, particularly through agencies like the FBI, highlights the international dimension of the problem. Designating the Maras as terrorist organizations demonstrates the severity of their activities and the potential threat they pose not only to the countries in Central America but also to the broader region. It's important to note that while efforts are being made to combat the Maras, addressing the underlying social and economical factors that contribute to the growth of these gangs is equally crucial. Poverty, lack of education, limited opportunities, and weak social services can create an environment where young individuals are more susceptible to joining gangs for a sense of belonging and economic survival. The infiltration of the Mara Salvatrucha in Mexico, particularly the city of Celaya, showcases the challenges posed by transnational criminal networks. The collaboration between gangs and cartels further complicates the situation, making it a very hard nut to crack. To tackle this, it requires a coordinated and multifaceted approach from law enforcement, governments, and communities to provide safer environments for the affected populations.